All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Ainsley Keller. I manage our North American operation here at SK Global Software. We see a lot of familiar faces today attending one of our episodes in our summer webinar series, and we see some new faces. So glad to have you today. Thank you for spending your Thursday afternoon with us. We are going to deliver some great content to you today, so we appreciate you spending time with us. As you can see here, let me see if I can figure out how to get my slide over. There you go. For those of you who have been around, you've heard this spiel before, but most Thursdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, SK Global and our team of architects and our partners present content in this webinar series. We have had great feedback on it, so we're going to keep doing it. And we've been running these presentations since middle of May. So on this slide, you can kind of see the different pieces of content that we've presented since May 14th. Today, we're featuring one of our premier partners, Flint Fox. And so this is really exciting for us. This is one of the first times where we've brought on another ISV partner in the Microsoft channel to share with you today. This session will be recorded. It's being recorded right now as we speak. And just as attending the webinar session today, you will get a copy of this recording. And then September 10th, September 17th, and September 24th, we have additional content. Next week, we're going to be going over, September 10th, we're going to be flipping back over to Chuck Schrader. If you've been on our sessions before, you've heard him present. And we're going to be diving into the bank consult, which some of you all know, our bank consult service. We're going to be diving into the process of kind of communicating with your banks and talking through all of those hairy subjects when you're implementing SK Global. And then we're featuring another partner, another strong partner in the Microsoft channel, Elevate HR. So September 17th, if you're interested in hearing from the Elevate HR folks, they will be presenting as well. And then we're back to AP automation for those AP folks who have seen quite a few videos in our series. September 24th, we'll be presenting some content around AP automation. If you want copies of any of the content that we've already had, all of our webinars are on demand. All you have to do is go to sksoft.com/events, and then you can click on any of our past recorded content and register for a copy of the recording. And then of course, that same page has the 3 upcoming events so that you can register to attend the upcoming events and get reminders and things like that. If you see anything today that you have follow-up questions on, of course, during the presentation today, if you have a question, just pop it into the panelist, into the chat, or into the Q&A tool, and we'll have time towards the end of Steve's presentation to answer those questions. We've had sessions where we've had a lot of questions and we haven't been able to cover them all. If we don't get to your question today, we will surely send you an answer via email. If anything trips a question after today's event, or you're curious about the Flint Fox solution, you can send an email to sales@sksoft.com or contact me if you know Ainsley Keller, ainsley@sksoft.com, and we will make sure to get you in touch with the Flint Fox team to get your questions answered. So I'm going to ramble on a little bit more, and then we're going to jump over to the Flint Fox solution. But today you'll be hearing from Steve Pepler. He is the Vice President of Revenue Management for Business Transformation in the Flint Fox Group. And if you don't know Flint Fox, they provide a best-of-breed trade revenue management solution that resolves many of your revenue challenges across the supply chain. And SK Global thought we'd been around for a long time. We're about to celebrate our 25th year anniversary. Flint Fox has over 30 years of experience delivering TRM solutions to manufacturing, wholesale distribution, retail industries. Their integration to D365 and to the Dynamics ERP stack is flawless. So you are in great hands with Steve today and with the Flint Fox team. Again, if you have any questions today, you can post them in the chat tool and we'll make sure to get you an answer. All right, Steve, without further ado, I'm going to stop yapping and hand it over to you.
Great. Thanks, Ainsley. Let me just share my screen here. Okay. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks for joining, and thanks again, Ainsley, for the introduction and the the lead in. Today, I'm going to talk about what Ainsley said, Flint Fox TRM, as well as our add-on engine called RMX. And this is our solution for Dynamics 365, finance and supply chain. So in terms of an agenda, just at a high level, the first thing I'm going to talk about is, what does TRM mean? Because it's a term that many of you may not have heard of before, but I'll explain that. I'll give you a little bit of overview about who Flint Fox are, and then we'll talk about the solution itself, what it is that we do in terms of functionality, where we sit, how we integrate, and then talk about some of the benefits if you do choose to use our solution or if you are using it. We'll have some customer success stories, and then if we have time and people are interested, I can do a couple of brief slides on how we manage deductions and process them in concert with SK Global. Okay. So when we say trade revenue management, we really mean what we call supply chain revenue management. And when you think of supply chain, you think about the chain from the initial manufacturing of goods through to distribution, through to sales, either to an end customer or to a retailer, and then potentially on to a consumer. So that entire supply chain of passing goods up the supply chain and paying backwards and forwards between customers and vendors is really what we focus on. So specifically, it's more around everything there is to do with a price and all of the things that might be implied in a price, but that come at a later time, such as a promotional allowance, a rebate, royalty, and sometimes even commissions. So we manage those both on the incoming side as well as the outgoing side. So revenue that you receive from your vendor for purchasing X amounts of goods, we would term that supply chain revenue, as well as revenue that you receive from customers on a sale. Okay. Just a little bit about Flint Fox. We are a global company. Even though we're not a massive global corporation, we are actually headquartered in Auckland, New Zealand. We have offices in Europe and London, across the US and Canada, in Singapore and Brazil. And we also have people working across Australia, parts of Southeast Asia, and parts of Europe. So we do have global coverage and we do have global customers. And we've been partnering with Microsoft now for about 15 years, seriously partnering as an ISV for about 10 years. And as Ainsley said, we've been around for just about 32 years now, and so a fairly long period of time. And we've focused on this whole trade revenue management aspect for just about all of that 32 years. So when it comes to Microsoft, one of the things that we'd like to point out is, there are lots and lots of ISVs. I think there's over 10,000 now, different independent software vendors that are producing solutions that are certified as Microsoft ready. And one of the things that differentiates Flint Fox from that huge crowd is we're one of only 10 what they call strategic global ISVs. And we're also in a smaller group as a prioritized co-sell partner. So, so we do a lot with Microsoft. We kind of are tied together very closely. We work with their R&D team. They work with ours. Everything we do, we try to do in lockstep with Microsoft in terms of things like new releases and added functionality. We are the only ISV that specializes in this area. There are some others that do a little bit, but nobody else specializes in it. And we specialize, I guess, one of the things that we do really well is we try to systematize and make it simple to administer and handle what really is, in the end of the day, complex deal management between vendors and customers. And on top of all of that, we now have the world's fastest pricing engine, which we'll talk about a little bit later. It can deliver 5,000 prices per second, but that's per instance. So if you needed 1 million prices per second, We just string together more instances, and there you go. Okay. So in terms of functional areas, as I said, we cover both the supply purchase side as well as the sale customer side. When it comes to pricing management, we're trying to make sure that what you sell is accurately priced, and that the price that you're selling at isn't something that you have to manipulate or determine at the point of sale or purchase. It's already pre-calculated, and all of the details that go into that calculation are at your fingertips. So you understand how and why the price that pops up on the screen, where it came from, what it's made up of, and what the final price will be. So that whole idea of planning your price ahead of time, making sure it's a single source of truth for pricing, and that if you are in a competitive situation, you can understand your margins, so that if you do have to make an adjustment to your price, you're doing it from a position of strength in terms of knowledge. Moving to the right, we also manage, we call it rebate management or accruals management. Under this area, we can manage royalties and commissions as well as promotional accruals. We kind of broadly call those rebates. In there, we have an accrual process. So we create real-time accruals to recognize income or expense at the time that the activity occurs, and set up accruals that are available to be paid out or claimed at a later date. So we've got a lot of flexibility around how you can create those in terms of calculation methods, different prices or products or rates between any product, any customer, any vendor, date-based functionality, all that kind of stuff that you really would need if you're having advanced rebates or promotions. And then at the bottom, we have promotional pricing. So promotional pricing is basically an extension of our everyday pricing, but you have things that may be shorter term in nature. You may have promotions that you're trying to use to incent products that don't turn over as often as others. So you may have mix and match incentives. You can have free goods if you're really trying to incent somebody to buy more of a certain basket. So anything you can think of in terms of calculating a promotional price or an everyday price in terms of rates, percents, tiers, free goods, that's what we specialize in. Now we have two solutions, actually three solutions at the moment. Down the left, our TRM solution is our solution that's built inside of Microsoft Dynamics 365. It covers the areas there that you see: pricing, promotional pricing, rebate management, as well as the back-end claiming and deduction management, where you settle any of the accrued programs that you may have. On the right, we have an RMX solution, which works with any ERP. It also works with other applications. It covers the same subject areas. It is a little bit less in terms of manual claims and deduction management, but everything else is at least as comparable to TRM. And then the third solution, which is across the bottom of each of those columns, is our RMX performance pricing engine. And this is the engine that for TRM users, we sit it outside of Dynamics 365. And by doing that, we can expose our pricing based on the setup inside of TRM. We can calculate those prices at high speed and expose them to any requesting application. So if you're running Dynamics 365 as your ERP, you've got sales orders and maybe EDI coming in, purchase orders, but you need to also deliver pricing to websites, maybe point of sale devices, CRM solutions, handheld solutions for people selling, right on the spot. All of those are supported out of the box with our simple web service by the RMX pricing engine. So in terms of Flint Fox, if you're inside of Dynamics 365, our solution is embedded right inside of it. It shares the same database schema. It uses all of the same code base. It is essentially just another menu item inside of D365. So anything that you can do in D365 from a infrastructure point of view automatically applies to Flint Fox TRM. Okay. So this is a little bit more complicated chart, but so I won't dwell on it too long. But the point we're trying to get across here is that when we talk about supply chain revenue, you have suppliers that are um, potentially doing things like mining or uh, oil and gas producers, and they're supplying manufacturers, and they will have selling prices with those manufacturers. They'll also have potentially promotional allowances and discounts and offers. They'll have charges for different types of logistical things that happen. Those may be based on the overall quantity. They may be based on a combination of quantity or sales or anything in between. And they may pay rebates to those manufacturers. And as we move to the right, you'll see that the manufacturers in turn are buying from suppliers of goods. They may have some complex relationships in terms of rebates and promotional pricing, but then they're selling themselves to distributors and other channels, and they are passing through or creating on their own different promotional sale prices, different rebates, different promotional programs, and they need to settle all of those things. So, and then as a distributor, we manage both sides of the fence. So the distributors are purchasing things and passing them through to retailers or other customers, and they need to understand, what did they pay after all of their rebates, promotional allowances, etc., are received, so that when they sell, they can make sure that they're not selling at a loss. Or if they are selling at a loss, it's an informed decision, not an accident. Okay, so across the bottom, the things that we just talked about: price management. We're trying to make your pricing accurate. You can manually adjust prices, but we keep those things discrete and well known, so that at a later date you can see why and how much you actually manually adjusted. So it's always an incremental portion, not the just a change in price. We give you visibility to margins. With promotions, you're looking for flexibility. With rebates, you're looking for some automation and accuracy to reduce leakage. And then the settlement of everything on the right-hand side is claiming from your vendors, receiving deductions and claims in turn from your customers to pay all of these things. So we think managing this with our solution is really actually a growth enabler, and it's also an ROI enabler. And the reason we think that it is because there's lots of issues in this space. When you think about all of those channels and from left to right in the past chart, there's a lot of complexity that can be built into relationships over time. And as competition increases and as the way you go to market changes, with more digitization and e-commerce, etc., you get exposed to more competition. There's margin pressures that are different within different channels, and it's quite complex. And then managing all of those things that are not necessarily on your invoice or on your purchase order, in terms of rebates and vendor incentives, etc. It's hard to keep on top of them if you can't systematize them. And so on the right, a lot of people have manual processes to manage not only their pricing, they're managing pricing at the point of sale or at the point of taking an order. And then after the fact, trying to settle and pay is complex, especially if your pricing is manual. So we try to provide a single source of truth to systematize these things. We automate not just the processes of creating an accrual, but also the processes around making sure that your price is right. So if you set up a price or a rebate at a group membership level, then the addition or subtraction of a member in that group automatically applies to your pricing and rebates, etc. You don't have to go through and update 50 agreements. And then again, we're trying to give you dead net margin clarity, and we do that at the transaction level so that you can always drill down to with a single line within an invoice, 2 years later if you needed to, and see exactly how much you made. So one of the things I've talked about a few times is what we're really trying to do is make margins visible. And those margins, not just at the time that you make a sale or a purchase, but after the fact when you're doing customer, supplier, vendor, product profitability reporting. So you can learn about where your best margins are your worst margins, and you can course correct, or you can take advantage of things that you see. And then with our high-speed pricing engine, as I said, we sit it outside of the TRM D365 instance. And by doing that, we now can deliver pricing to any channel that you want to sell through or purchase from. So in here, you kind of a visual example of, in the center, you have our pricing engine, and it's calculating prices in real time and receiving price requests from D365 orders, e-commerce solutions, and they can be unlimited, point of sale devices, EDI. An important thing with EDI is that you want to validate the pricing on any incoming EDI orders before you accept that EDI order and enter it or import it into Dynamics. And the reason is, once you've accepted that order into your ERP system, you've essentially accepted that all the pricing is correct on that order. So with high-speed pricing, you can take an EDI order. It could have 50,000 lines. We can quickly price it. You can compare the prices and reject the lines that have errors, or you can reject, depending on what your process is, the entire order and ask that your customer correct the error lines. And if the errors turn out to be your own, you'll find out, pretty quickly. You can do some research on that. And then on the bottom left, any sort of application that you may have, it could be in an Apple iPad. It can be on a mobile device of any sort. It can be a DSD type device. You may want to invoice on the spot and give your customers access to, this is what you'll pay. Potentially may even update some of your allowances. So we empower that any device, any application, any requesting party can get a price. Okay. And by centralizing it all, that means that your prices might be different in each one of these nodes, but the way you get to that price is systematized and known. So you can always compare, contrast, defend your pricing. And it aligns your pricing within and outside of your ERP. And by doing it in super high speed, you can have all these things going on at the same time. And if you happen to have 1 million orders per minute, then that's fine. We can calculate all of those prices, order lines, I mean. So what are the benefits? I kind of talked around a few of them as we've gone through the slides, but pulled out a few that we see quite often. And I guess the first one is, if you can systematize things that are complex in nature, and in this case, if you've got complex pricing, promotions, and rebates, then we can systematize that. And the way we do it is we set up each one of your aspects as a trade agreement. We generically call them trade agreements, whether it's a purchase agreement, a price list, a promotion, or a rebate. And that trade agreement's important because it acts as a kind of a subledger in itself. It controls the date effectivity of when the price or promotion applies. It has the memberships, which is, we have some pretty cool membership structures around grouping and with inclusions and exclusions. And a lot of that automates the administration that you'd normally have to do in other systems. By managing at a membership level, you can push a lot of your administration to the management of your master file data. And then we have just about unlimited transactional applicability as well. So if there are things that at the time of an order that, the order is from a certain location, it came with a code for a contract or a promotion or a coupon, any kind of factor that is captured on the transaction itself, time of day, for example, can be used to influence the price or select a promotion. And then we have lots of complex calculation methods. So, the standard things are, is it a value? Is it a rate? Is it a percent? Or is it a calculated rate based on a net value? And then you can make those more and more complex by saying, okay, how do I add together multiple rates? Do I take one rate and then calculate the next rate? Do I calculate them all against the same level? So 10% of 100 gets me to 90. If I had 3 10%, is that $70, 90 or 100 minus 10 minus 10 minus 10, or is it 100 minus 10 to get to 90, minus 9 to get to 81, minus $8.10 to get to 72 or whatever. So all of those things are done within our calculation methods or components. And then, as I said, we automate the processes. So you want to make sure that you get the right price at the right time. So you can set up your pricing well in advance when it's date-based, and you could have a price set up for the whole year that changes every month, and set that up today for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years if you knew in advance what you wanted to do. And then by using our membership structures, we keep the applicability up to date. So when you add new customers, add new products, there's no need to post a journal or cancel a price list and add a new one. It just updates automatically. And when it comes to accruals and recognizing revenue, we have processes that run. They can run at night so that you can recognize your revenue or expenses daily at the time the activity occurs. So you don't have to wait till the end of the year and hope that you didn't get a surprise of some sort. We're trying to make sure that as you go through the year, you're understanding exactly how much your promotions, rebates, royalties, commissions are going to cost you, or how much you'll earn. And then closing the loop, we can generate payments automatically, and we can settle those, whether it's based on a sale or a purchase. You can settle through AP or AR, doesn't matter. So if you're paying a customer, if they want to check, then you can pay them through AP, or you can give them a credit through AR. I talked about transaction level details. So what we mean by that is granular accountability on this slide. So everything we do is captured at the line level within a transaction. So if you go back and look at your profitability at the end of the month, we've allocated or appropriately calculated and posted against each transaction line. So when you roll it all up to the total, you can drill through, you can fully understand customer, vendor, product profitability. And by doing that, if you want to, you can price your e-commerce transactions. You can price catalogs at any level. You can price them by group. So if you have pack sizes or other colors or whatever it is that may affect a price, you can group them because we have those grouping structures called attributes, and you can see them drill right through. And then again, for accountability, there's always the idea of I can create a price list or a promotion, but somebody else has to approve it. So there's inherent workflows. We've got roles that restrict who can do what, and enhance some of those things. And there's always going to be data that's not held in the ERP that you need to import or integrate with other solutions. So we have the ability to import just about anything that you can think of within our solution. And you can also, when you're in, say, an agreement, say you have a price list with 1,000 lines, you can open that up in Excel, make your changes, and push it back automatically using some of the D365 functionality. And because, speaking of D365 and Microsoft and Azure, all the things that are included with D365, Power BI, integration, etc., workspaces, that's all included in our solution. Now, one of the things that we do with SK Soft or SK Global is work together so that when payments are received through AR and you're using automation that SK Global provide, that you can automatically link those deductions or short payments to Flint Fox TRM. So we have the ability to receive deductions through accounts receivable, categorize those, reject them, allocate them, match them to agreements, or you can expense them directly to an account. We can push pay customers or push claim against vendors with our payment run. So for things that are more known and regular, so an annual rebate or a monthly rebate or royalty that's received or paid monthly, all of those calculations and payment processes are able to be automated, so you don't have to key anything in. And as I said before, everything that you pay or receive, if it's going through an agreement, the agreement itself acts as a kind of a subledger, so a miniature P&L for the, what have you accrued, how much have you claimed, or how much have you paid or pending to be paid, and what's remaining is visible at all times inside of our agreements. And all of that, one of the things on the deduction side that helps to do is eliminate double payments and reduce leakage. So leakage is when you didn't get paid enough or you paid too much. So in terms of deductions, one of the things that you're really trying to prevent is post audits a year or two after the fact that are received, and it's really up to you to disprove that deduction. And the quicker you can do that and say, hey, we already paid this 2 years ago on this date with this deduction, for this invoice that you claimed or settled, the faster the more response you'll get from the post auditors. And if you can defend yourself, then you'll find that the post audit claims that come to you are less frequent than they are to those that cannot defend themselves. Okay, so in summary, we talked about these things, but pricing flexibility, we give you unlimited flexibility. You can have as many discounts or charges between list through net. You can start with a value that's above list. So if you had, for example, a raw material cost, and then you needed to add logistic charges, but they were built into the list price, but you need to capture those so that you can manage your logistics department as a profit center or a cost center. And we do all of that stuff. So anything you can think of in terms of promotional tactics, we deliver those. And a lot of these things are designed not just to give out more money or match up to what your vendors are offering you, but they're also there to drive more growth. So we have methods and screens even that allow you to automatically offer mix and match deals, but we also have prompts and directed selling screens that can prompt you as you're entering in a line that says, hey, if you offer the customer 12 additional cases of this product, there is a free good that they can receive, or they can receive a better discount in their tiered discount. And we prompt you through those things. You can make those changes in the screen. It will automatically update the sales order screen and give that free good or that extra discount to your customer on the order. Profitability, we talked about, you want to see your margins, especially if you're in a competitive situation at the time of sale. So if you're bidding on a contract and you're being put under pressure to deliver a better price, or maybe it's a volume offer order that is higher volume than you would normally expect, you want to make sure that you understand, after all the rebates that you pay or receive or promotions, are you going to make any money if you drop the price, and how far can you go? Okay, automation, we talked about that. We try to automate things so that everything is, as you change your master file, you add a new product, customer, vendor, it automatically applies. You don't have to go and create new agreements, add new lines. And all of these things lead to more accurate pricing, but we can deliver with the RMX engine super high speed pricing. So that allows you to get outside of D365 and sell through any channel you want. And we track all of these things. We provide what we call a closed loop settlement. So that whole idea of each agreement having, this is what I've paid, this is what I've accrued, this is what's left. Either that's an automatic payment process or a manual one through a claim or deduction. We manage both. And then we give you the back end ability to track and trace all of these things. So as I said, you always have an audit trail. Somebody challenges a price and says, why is that price different through the website versus through your store? You can look through the price detail and you can see, maybe through the website, we offer this or that discount because there's no manual intervention required. But then again, there's a freight charge on top because we're not offering we're offering a delivered price as opposed to a potential pickup in the store price. So all of those things you get a trail so you can comply with your auditors, your customers, your vendors, anybody who's looking for more information. So in terms of our customer, kind of our NASCAR chart, I just wanted to point out a couple on here that we work jointly with SK Global with on. Musco Family Olives, underneath the consumer goods column is an olive company based in California. They are automating their lockbox processes and accounts receivable through SK Global and interacting with Flint Fox TRM so that when there is a short payment, that short payment is automatically created as a deduction into TRM and posted through so you can clear the invoice. And the deduction is now available to process in TRM, or if it hits one of our rules, then and the information that the customer provided in the file is sufficient, you can write off some of those things automatically. So if you've got small charges that you don't want to deal with, you can write those off. So Musco Olives, Bush Brother Beans, Pete's Coffee, those are three in that column that are joint customers of ours. In terms of other customer stories that I just wanted to highlight quickly, Barco Vita Root is a customer of ours we've had for about live for 4 or 5 years now. And they had an issue with two things. One was the manual effort it took to pay rebates and track them and make sure that they didn't pay too much. But their biggest problem was delivering accurate pricing and also delivering it in a way that kind of transformed their business. So they went from roughly 90% of their invoiced sales came back with a dispute, meaning a pricing error. That error rate is statistically zero 1 week after go live. So they're very happy. It improves their cash flow and reduces leakage, because every time you overcharge a customer, you can be sure that you undercharged as well. You will never hear about the undercharge. So there's money walking out the door on both sides of it. We transformed their business as well by allowing our pricing. It works within the customers now. A lot of them will create their own orders. They work within Experlogics, another partner, to visualize and create a configured product. And as they're doing that and they're entering in the codes and quantities and configurations, Flint Fox RMX is updating the pricing in real time so they can see instantly what their final price will be. Another good pricing example, Site One Landscape Supply, used to be John Deere Landscape. They're the largest and the only national wholesale distributor and retailer of landscaping products across Canada and the US. They have over 460 branches now. They're in 44 states, five provinces, and they have a lot of products and a lot of customers, because a lot of their customers are contractors and industrial customers, as well as kind of your traditional retail cash consumer purchasing goods. So when it comes down to it, with all of their complexity in terms of pricing, they have over 1.5 billion unique pricing combinations. So it's a lot of prices. They have up to 50 levels of their price model between cost through to the final net price, depending on the location of the store, who the customer is, time of year, all those sorts of things. And what they were really trying to do was they had a legacy point of sale infrastructure that was reaching end of life in terms of its ability to deliver pricing in a real-time manner to the stores. So we centralized their pricing. We delivered over the web with our web service. It's pricing in store, like I said, at 460 plus stores. It's doing it at real time. So not only do we keep their stores functioning and improve their process dramatically, but because it was such high speed, we enabled them to launch their e-commerce websites, which they were itching to do. So now they have multiple B2B and B2C websites, and all of this increased the value that they were getting out of Dynamics and has moved them from, they're on AX 2012 today, but now they're moving to D365 upgrade. And the last one is New Belgium Brewing, kind of a different customer altogether. But again, with New Belgium, there was a lot of pricing all manually created in spreadsheets and updated at the point of sale. And we eliminated all of the use of spreadsheets with automated rule-based calculated pricing. We automated their accrual process. They offer in the brewing industry and alcoholic beverages, there's a lot of offers made to the distributors that the distributors have a fair amount of leeway in terms of how they spend those things. So we automated their accrual process and validated those accruals and matched up their payments against them. So now they can see their profitability by customer, by product, and they can see that every month after close. Okay. So I don't know if we have any questions yet, Ashley.
Yep, it looks like we do have one. I'm gonna just read it out loud, and you'll translate.
Okay.
We can unmute Jeff if we need to. But
Sure.
do you have any kind of integration with Vantage Point EDI for your price code lookups? It sounded like maybe validating EDI pricing before accepting or acknowledging the order. If that's the case, then is there some integrations with organizations like Vantage Point EDI?
Yep, we've integrated with quite a few different EDI providers. The key is though that our solution, the integration is pretty simple. So all the, if you're, you know, if it's not Vantage Point, if it was somebody else, it's I think we've never had an EDI vendor spend more than maybe a day in total in getting the integration working and making sure it works. So Vantage Point, I'm pretty sure we have some joint customers, but I can get back to you on that.
Okay, sounds good. And we've got a pretty good sized group here. If you all have questions at any time, you can either send me a chat message there in the Zoom, or you can post them to the Q&A slot. And of course, we've got, you know, about the sales at SKSoft email address, but we'll stick around here for a little bit, and you can post questions as you think of them.
Now, I just threw up another slide that I had just as if we had time slide, but it's more talking about what TRM and SKSoft do together when it comes to deduction processing. So it's a little dry, but if you kind of go from left to right in terms of processing, you know, there's a cash automation process that SK Global provides to take files from lockboxes, banks, and well, just about from anywhere, and turn those files into actionable and imported matching processes within cash application. And as they do that, if there are short payments or deductions, we've got integration between the solutions so that a deduction can be automatically created by SK Global. SKSoft creates the deduction, which we call a DED record, passes that to TRM. And if the invoice is paid in full now between the deduction and the amount of cash that the customer is saying that they've applied, then the deduction helps clear the balance in receivables and passes the amount over to TRM into a deduction ledger. And then within TRM and D365, there's the things I talked about before. You can automatically write some of these off if you've got rules around, you know, this is a trusted customer and anything under $50, we'll just write off to a certain account so we don't have to deal with it. Or you can have no write-offs, it's customer specific. But once it's in the TRM deduction ledger, then you can follow all of our processes to allocate and split or recharge or expense, depending on the what you find out or what you know about the deduction. Okay, and then all of these things, because we're integrated with D365, when you post a deduction, it automatically manages and posts through the relevant journal accounts inside of D365. So your financials are up to date and you don't have to do two processes to clear a deduction.
And Steve, we typically have a mix of parties on these webinar sessions. We've got partners who are, you know, selling D365 to organizations who are evaluating that as their ERP, you know, moving off maybe another ERP product. Sometimes we have folks that are just, you know, they have gone live with D365. They've used maybe native product, or they're expanding their business or acquiring businesses that need this kind of solution. What's the best practice for timing? Should they be starting to talk to you as early as possible in kind of that ERP evaluation stage, or if they've gone live and then acquired a company that is in an industry that needs this kind of solution? Is there a best practice about how soon they should start talking to you all?
Sure. I would normally the kind of best practice is to talk about this before you start your implementation, so that you can keep you don't have to do double work by creating or enhancing base functionality in D365, or trying to figure out, is there a workaround, etc. So we can help you out with that upfront, early on the process. But if you are live with D365 and you're acquiring other companies, and you see that you need our functionality, then we can usually accommodate that pretty easily as well. We can leverage things like, what have you already decided upon in terms of how you categorize your customers, your products, your vendors. We can map those fields that are relevant to pricing and promotions and rebates into TRM, so that they can form part of our trade agreements. And if you have additional fields that you didn't think of at the time you were setting up D365, then we have the ability to add additional attributes as well. So we can accommodate both.
And we typically ask folks to email that sales@sksoft email address if they have any questions. There'll be a recording of this that will automatically go to all of the folks that registered, even if they couldn't be here today. And of course, all of you who are attended this afternoon. Steve, if they've seen things here that they're interested about, they want a demo or they want to see additional content, where should we send them? Where should we is there other solutions or other platforms that have additional content for them to peek at?
Right. So I guess the starting point, if you're interested in our solutions, you can look at our website, which flintfox.com. We also have an email just as same as SKSoft, called sales@flintfox.com. And you can ask us questions via email. You can ask myself directly. It's S. Pepler, so I don't think I put it on the slide, unfortunately. Or you can go to our website, and we have a form on there where you can fill in some of your details, and somebody will contact you straight away.
That's wonderful. Well, Steve, thanks for your time this afternoon and putting in the work to prep for today's session. As always, we'll have this recorded. It will be on demand at the sksoft.com/events. And as always, those of you who have attended these webinars in the past, we so appreciate you coming back and seeing more of our sessions. And if you're new to the webinar series, we hope that you'll join us again at one of our events in September coming up. So thanks, everyone. Thank you, Steve, and have a good afternoon.